Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to everyone who watches and listens to my content. Hope you have a good holiday season. Hopefully, get together with family, get to do all the family stuff. Everybody loves Christmas, even me. Uh, Demonic little fucking atheist shithead. Even I love Christmas. Everybody loves Christmas. Christmas is great. Speaking of family, JD Vance decided to defend his family while also making his stance on Nick Fuentes completely clear, which is a good thing because it's a good thing. It makes me like JD Vance more, especially going into 2028. I, like many, was getting a little leery about the fact that he seemed to be, cozying up with the more extreme side. I understand he's trying to expand the coalition. I talked about that yesterday. Um, which is fine, but like we do have to draw the line somewhere. We need some level of gatekeeping. There are some elements of the right wing that we do not want in that we don't want to bring into the tent, and I think Nick Fuentes is totally a bridge too far, and he's made that clear. And to be fair, he's made it clear for a reason. Something as simple as Nick Fuentes talks shit about JD Vance's wife Usha. So he's gonna, clap back. He told Nick Fuentes to eat shit. It was great. Well, and Jen Psaki, but we'll get to that. I'm actually using Huffington Post, which is surprising to me because I don't think I've ever used HuffPost for anything. But here we are. This was the only article I could find that wasn't paywalled because it's like New York Post or none of the other places that I normally would use for these articles. None of them covered this. So, also, this happened 2 days ago. I'm recording this on the 24th. This is from the 22nd. I completely missed it. I would have covered this Monday. Vice President JD Vance has the same nasty view of race baiting activist Nick Fuentes and MSNBC host Jen Psaki when it comes to what they've said about his wife, Usha Vance. Quote, let me be clear. Anyone who attacks my wife, whether their name is Jen Psaki or Nick Fuentes, can eat shit. Vance told the British political site Unheard for Monday's edition. That's my official policy as Vice President of the United States. First of all, the cursing, it used to be people would say that it's unbecoming of the president and the vice president, and that, the office has to have a certain level of decorum. Even I used to believe that. Not anymore. No, we need to humanize the office. All right, humans, regular Americans on the ground, we say shit. We say shit all the time. It's part of our regular vernacular. And if JD Vance wants to pass himself off as one, you know, just a, good old country boy from Appalachia, from Kentucky and Ohio, then he needs to from the Ohio Valley, then he needs to, make himself. And I believe that. I do believe he is one of us. Like a lot of people think it's like, oh, because he went to Yale and he, Peter Thiel kind of like saw potential in him and helped his political career, that means he's like this hardcore elitist. No, kid grew up poor. Like, kid grew up poor in Ohio. Like, he gets it. But yeah, I even tried to use the Unheard article, but it's paywalled. And I ain't paying. Sorry, not doing it. Not doing it. Not happening. During the 2024 presidential race, Fuentes chimed in on Vance and his wife, whose parents moved from India to the U.S. in the 1970s. Who is this guy really? Fuentes said. Do we really expect that the guy who has an Indian wife and named their kid Vivek is going to support white identity? And then he has consistently, over and over and over again, at least for the last like 2.5, 3 years, it's been something that he's, we could probably, I don't know, we could probably go back to his early Senate race and his career in the Senate and go, he doesn't, it wasn't something he harped on, but so there does come with an air of kind of political opportunism there, but no, just because he wasn't saying it then doesn't mean he didn't believe it then. It just wasn't, conducive to, what he was trying to achieve at the time. Psaki who was the press secretary for ex-President Joe Biden, didn't really attack Usha Vance, but did comment wryly on the marriage and the Veep's appeal. Quote, I always wonder what's going on in the mind of Vance's wife. Like, are you okay? Please blink 4 times. Come over here. We'll save you, Psaki said on the I've Had It podcast in October. Vance called the remark disgraceful. Yeah, I'm sure Usha Vance, who herself is also, as far as I know, has been a registered Republican for as long as she's been registered to vote. Like, I'm sure that, fucking college graduate, Usha Vance, who's married to a U.S. senator and is now the second lady of the United States. I'm sure she's fucking miserable, Jen Psaki. I'm sure she has no. You think she had no like say in this? You think she wasn't like there when he's like, you know, JD Vance? He's like, honey, I just got off the phone with Trump. He wants me to be the VP. You think that she wasn't there going, fucking hey, you need to go be the VP? Yeah, because that's exactly how she talks. She's like, fucking hey, right, dog. Usha Vance is like, you need to take that VP shit, son. But no, seriously, you think that she's like not a part of this? That she has no like that she, she's not like the angel on his shoulder? Like, come on. And I'm not saying, before people take that out of context, I'm not saying that Usha Vance controls JD, but there's, I'm sure that she's fine. I'm sure that she's fully on board with this. She probably agrees with everything her husband says. I imagine the only thing he said publicly she doesn't agree with is maybe the whole thing where he's like, I hope my wife comes to Christ one day. Which, of course, a Christian would say. He marries a woman who isn't a Christian. And then, like, he's just like, I love my wife, and if she wants to stay Hindu, that's fine, but I do hope she comes to Christ one day. I'm sure she's all like, yeah, honey, that's fine, but not going to happen. You know, like publicly is probably the only like thing he said publicly she might not agree with is that. But I imagine everything else he's ever said publicly, she's probably 100% on board with. Vance himself later got slammed for saying he hoped his wife, who was Hindu, would someday share his Christian viewpoint. Yeah, I was just talking about that. An appearance by Usha Vance without her wedding ring also got tongues wagging a short time after that. I don't even remember that. That was very that was a bit must have been a massive nothing burger because that didn't even come across my desk. Like I didn't hear anything about that controversy. On Sunday, Vance tried to tiptoe diplomatically around whether Fuentes and other extremists should be embraced in conservative circles. Quote, when I say that I'm going to fight alongside you, I mean all of you, each and every one, Mr. Vance said at Turning Point USA's annual conference. President Trump did not build the greatest coalition in politics by running his supporters through endless self-defeating purity tests. Now, there's a difference between, say, him being friendly with Tucker Carlson, who, you know, I've really kind of lost a lot of respect for, especially since he's become such a massive Muslim and Qatari shill. But, like, I don't believe I am one of the people who like I don't actually believe like Nick Fuentes and like Candace Owens, they probably are actually anti-Semites. And I hate throwing that word around because just like the left use Nazi to the point that it doesn't mean anything anymore, rightoids have a tendency to use anti-Semite to the point that it doesn't mean anything anymore. But by the definition of the term, one who has one who has derogatory views of Semitic people, Jews in particular. I do believe that like Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens actually are. I don't believe that Tucker Carlson's an anti-Semite. I think he's just an isolationist who really doesn't like Israel. I'm sure there are. I can't even remember how many American Jews there are living in the United States, but like I'm sure there's like a Jewish family in the Midwest who don't have passports, don't have Israeli dual citizenship, and have no, basically there's nothing going on there. He doesn't have a problem with those people. So, and I think whenever Vance is talking about that, I think he's talking about the people who are super critical of American foreign policy, super critical of Israel, the Israeli war machine, all these things, who aren't necessarily anti-Semites and those things. But then he does, obviously he's going to draw a carve out for people like Nick Fuentes who attack his wife, who say horrible things about his wife, which I would too. I would easily tell Nick Fuentes to go fuck himself. And I hope that that official policy extends into his presidential campaign and his presidential tenure, if and when he wins the presidency. And if his polling at AmFest is anything to be, is anything to be, looked at with any serious kind of with like a serious eye. He's going to be the party leader moving forward, and if that is the case, then Nick Fuentes is not going to have any influence at all on him. Just like Nick Fuentes has no influence on Trump, none whatsoever. So hopefully this is like a signal that his 15 minutes of fame are more or less up. That Nick Fuentes he's peaked and maybe he's going to go down. I can only hope because I'm fucking sick of him. I'm sick of him. I know a lot of other people are sick of him. I don't like him. I think he's a Fed. I think he's a Fed informant. I don't think he's literally like an FBI or CIA agent. But I do think he's Fed compromised. I think he's gay. Um, you know, I don't think he actually believes half the shit he says. I also like to rarely throw around the term grifter because I don't think the word means much of anything. It gets thrown around too liberally to the point where it doesn't mean anything. I think he's actually grifting on a lot of things. I think this is more a money game for him. Like I have absolutely no respect for the guy, none, and I long for the day whenever he goes to complete irrelevance. But yeah, let me know what you think down in the comments below, and be sure to do all the algorithm stuff for me, like the video and sub to the channel if you're not subbed, and of course, hit the bell. Make sure to do all that. Follow my links and follow me on X, and have yourself a holly jolly Christmas.